Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with George Jones, traffic engineer with the DOT,
Yes, ma'am.
Paulding County. And this is Scott Greene. He is the director of Paulding County DOT. And we are going to talk a little bit about the SPLOST. I'm very proud of the fact they have been keeping up somewhat with the conversations on Paulding.com and understand what the issues are with the people of the county. Um, and I know that the number one thing that I want Scott to clear up, because it has been across the board the biggest issue for getting this passed by the citizens of Paulding County, is the confusion over the collection of the money and where their money is spent. Can you explain very quickly? There's some rules actually written in stone about the way this money that is collected here in Paulding can be spent.
Yeah, it's not too different than the existing SPLOST program that we manage. The money is collected just like sales tax is normally, and it is sent to the state, Georgia State Finance and Investment Commission, to hold the money in a trust. And then it is sent out when projects are obligated and expenses are incurred, and it will be routed back to the local governments if they're spending the money, or to the state DOT if the DOT is building the project. And it's very tightly controlled. You can read it verbatim in the law where the money goes. Like I said, it's a trust fund, and it's got to be accounted for like everything we do here.
So basically the entire region, the taxes will be collected, and this region has its own trust fund. This is how it works, trust fund in our
Correct.
name.
Yes.
And okay, and we get a when we have projects, we get a percentage of this money. What is our percentage? Do you know that number?
We get a percentage in two ways. There is a guaranteed 25% local discretionary fund that is allocated based on your population and road miles. So it's a portion based on a need and your proportionate share of the population. It's a little bit factored to favor the counties that are a little less dense, just slightly based on the road mileage.
And that just means how many miles of roads you actually have in your county. Is that
Right.
right?
I mean, in a rural county, you have a fewer citizens per mile on the road, and in a sense, you have a greater need because you have more length of road per person to support it.
Right.
And so that's why it's just very slight sway, a few percentage points on that portion. And then the other portion is the 75% that comes off the penny collected will go to a regional list of projects. And once that list was set by our roundtable, we have no way to change it. And that money, it's 75% of the region, but then we get a certain share based on the projects that were actually selected in Paulding County. And we know what that share is. It's 14.7% of the region in the form of project value.
Yeah, that's pretty good for us, just to be a single county in the region to get that amount back. So we have a list, and so we had you. I'm assuming that you had a lot of input in this as far as our roads, which roads we wanted to put in here, and I would think you would know more of what the impact would be to the people of the county per road that you improved. Is that how they came to that decision?
That's correct. I mean, the list was drawn up at the engineering level by staff. It didn't come from political input until the list was already prepared, and they had to decide which projects would be funded.
Now, did you give them? Did you say the priorities? Did you send that list with priorities, or did they decide the priorities completely?
We prioritize the lists internally, looking at crash rates, the level of service on our different roads, and Georgia's staff, they track all the crash records in the county. They know where the intersections have the hot spots in terms of rates. love for George to say a little bit
Yeah,
about how we did that.
so George, I take it that you're the guy that sits down and starts crunching the numbers when we're looking at the traffic going through our roads, how quickly or how slowly the traffic is able to pass through our intersections. So can you explain to me what you contributed to prioritizing and creating this list?
I certainly can. Basically, what I mean, basically everybody in our traffic operations staff, we're a staff of 9 right now. We collect all the accident data. For years we've collected that in just paper copies. Now we've got to the point where using state assistance we can actually do this electronically, saving time
Okay.
and resources. We have an extensive traffic counting program with Paulding County. We track basically the top 150 roads in the county, along with other counts needed throughout the year to basically keep a historical database of all the roads and the growth trends. And through that, we've been able to basically pinpoint road projects, intersections that could use some help.
Yeah, well, I have an interesting question for you. Let's assume you lived in Paulding and you had to make a commute. Which road would you least want to have to use to get out of Paulding?
I would say how do I put it this way? The road with the most amount of traffic is State Route 6.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, is that 278?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I know that it used to be Route 6, and y'all may still have it in your records as 6. And I would have to agree with you. I despise it. And so that brings us to the next thing that you're going to widen is Macklin, which I use that as an alternative because my blood pressure goes up if I have to drive a mile on 278.
Right.
So tell us a little bit. I know that is very high priority, and it really will kind of go hand in hand with the widening of 278, will it not?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, these projects are going to be staggered throughout, the 10-year SPLOST and then also the build period after that. But obviously, I think Scott can elaborate more, but we're going to prioritize the projects
Right.
based on need.
But I think the one thing that you were really the expert on, which there were a lot of questions I saw brought up online about it, is they could not understand why you wanted to put in a system that would control the traffic flow, the lights throughout the entire county. So can you explain to me why that's so important and how it works?
Well, basically, a road has a certain amount of capacity, and when I use the word capacity, basically amount of cars that can travel through at a certain amount of time. And when you're having a road, say, 278 in Hiram, where you have a lot of entrances, exits, accesses, signals, that gets in the way of capacity. There's a less amount of cars that can use the lanes, and it takes longer to get through. And what we plan on doing with the ATMS, the Advanced Traffic Management System, is to maximize using CCTV cameras, also with our signal programs, is to basically create a larger bandwidth and also just try to fit more cars in there, and so they will get through quicker.
So you're going to change the length of time that the light is red and green and different times of day. I imagine that y'all would have the ability to change that also, time of day.
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, it's very aggravating to be sitting in a red light and there's no cars coming in the middle of the night, and there you're sitting at one of the longest lights in the county. So that I see that as pretty good. When we look at maybe city size or town size, that already have these in place and feel like they're critical, have we gotten to that size that's critical for us really in our growth?
I believe there are certain locations where, yes, it is critical. I believe State Route 6. I also believe Charles Hardy Parkway is another location that this would be a very good tool to use. Paulding, as we've all discussed, and I think most people know, so many jobs are outside the county, and so the AM commuter rush and then the PM peak hour, you get those are our biggest time periods, and this will basically facilitate people being able to leave the county and then get
Yes.
back in the county in a, you know.
Well, I understand that really there's a break when people are looking at real estate and looking at housing, where they're looking at a community like ours where the price of homes is lower, but when the commute gets up to a certain length of time, it doesn't outweigh paying less for a house when you're losing, 3 to 4 hours a day on the road. So we know that moving that traffic's critical for the economy. One of the next questions that I had was, when you're looking at the list, do any of these, can they move up and down in priority, or is priority set on that list?
Well, they're prioritized by difficulty as far as when they will be constructed. Most of the intersections are fairly simple projects. We know we can build those in the first 3 years of the program, and so they will all be working simultaneously. Some will be ready a little bit sooner than others, and we'll go ahead and put them out for bid. The more complex project would be like Highway 278, working out all the details there, and if we do any changes with adding, changing the configuration of medians, trying to reconfigure the driveways and things like that. It could take more time to work out, and so we've allowed more time for that type of project.
Okay. So you just talked about something I was very interested in, and people on the site brought up, was bidding the project out. Do we have a lot of companies already in existence that are just waiting for these bids, or are we going to have to bring people from even out of state to be able to handle this amount of work?
Well, we do have enough companies. Many of those companies are hanging on by a thread as far as staying in operation.
Mhm.
A lot of even our larger contractors are on the verge of laying off or have laid off in the last few years.
Mhm.
And they'll be able to ramp back up and hire more people to take care of the workload.
Yes.
But we're equal opportunity. If they have the financial capability to bid on a project, they're welcome to bid.
Okay.
We use the state qualified contractors list, and as the state does, all the projects that we manage, which will include a large portion of the regional projects, even though they are regional projects, we expect to manage those locally.
Okay, so ultimately, y'all will oversee the entire project from beginning to end. Our
Correct.
DOT in the county.
Correct, and we have a relationship and a certification process where the state agrees to reimburse us through the course of construction. It's the
Okay.
same way we're doing East Hiram Parkway right now. It's the same process.
Mm-hmm.
The main benefit, though, is this is not a federally funded project. Except for Macklin Road, we will be able to move this money quickly out on the street and turn dirt because we don't have as many hurdles to jump through.
Well, I do understand too that when we're waiting on our money that we spend on our fuel tax, we all pay it. Then basically, some of that goes federal, some of it goes to the state, and we have to ask for our money back.
That's correct.
Yes.
We all
But with
pay.
this, we do not have to ask for our money back. Our money goes straight into an account for us.
That's right. There's basically 100% return. There is a small percentage. It's I think it's only about 1 or 2%
Right.
that could end up going into administration. In fact, we have that budgeted in the regional list at $10 million,
Okay.
and that's to ramp up the oversight. This is a good pot of money to work with, and oversight is important.
Yes,
And
it is.
we're willing to pay for oversight to make sure we're tracking our projects and they're being delivered.
Now that is a citizens group, is it not? That
Well, there-
does the oversight.
No, well, there's two forms of oversight. You have the management of the program itself. This is going to be the engineers that monitor the projects and report to the citizen panel and to the state on what the progress is. The citizen panel will review those reports and has input on, sort of holding everybody to the task of
Okay.
delivering the
Now,
project.
who would they complain to though? I mean, if they say, "Whoa, we don't," who do they go to Sheriff Gullidge and tell him?
You talking about the citizens?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that panel is much higher level,
Okay.
and they'll report back to the state, the governor, the legislature, and the
So it's really kind of big trouble if y'all don't do it
right.
right.
And it's a gut check. You know, we can sit here as engineers and we can manage it and tell people that it's on schedule and we're in budget and all that
Right.
thing. But the citizens have a right to know that somebody's looking out from their point of view.
Exactly.
What we think is a reasonable design issue or thing to work out. You know, citizens might say, well, you know, why does your sidewalk need to be 8 feet wide? Why can't it be 6 feet wide? That kind of thing, and ask the right questions.
Well,
And
if you've ever been to a large city like New York or Los Angeles, you understand exactly why a sidewalk is 8 feet wide. I mean, where we live, people walk for exercise. They don't walk as part of their daily lives to go from, which would be wonderful. But that is not part of our plan to put in sidewalks over every mile of road so that we create pedestrian friendly. We didn't see that as a priority. That our roads are more so.
I might disagree with you just a little bit. We have a lot of narrow roads that were built in the 60s and 50s that it really doesn't make sense to add sidewalk to today.
Yeah.
We know those roads are reaching capacity and they're going to need to be widened. We don't want to put in sidewalk facilities
Right.
and connections that'll be torn out. So the plan and the method we're using is to, when we do a major project
Uh-huh.
that we know will last for many, many years, we go ahead and add those facilities at that time. And we build it as we go. Basically, every capacity project and nearly every intersection project, if there's any presence with pedestrian or business connections and things like that where people might need to get to a business center or an activity
Right.
center, it will have a sidewalk and we'll put it in as part of the project.
Right. That makes sense.
Bike lanes as a course now are being added to our projects, but only when there's an investment there and an economy of scale to go ahead and do that.
Right. So if there's really no need for it, we're not going to build a bike path all the way down 61. If there's absolutely no
Right. We
no
wouldn't do
need,
that
if
today,
there's
but
no need in the future, yes.
when
but
61 is widened, you will have that added in.
very
and,
good.
And
So we'll do it at the same time. What we're
Right.
adding another 4 feet on the side of a highway.
It'll be a 4 foot usable area and actually another 2 feet with the rumble strips where, you know,
Yeah.
if somebody's falling asleep, it'll wake them up, that kind
Well,
of thing.
I'm going to tell you, I live on 61, and there's nothing any scarier than to have a car coming this way at you and to have somebody on a speed bike here, and you're like, you know, it's like, am I going to kill myself going head on, or am I going to kill the biker? So I do understand that we have that there's quite a few people that are using that highway for a bike lane. Now, I had a question by a member of Paulding.com. It seems that at some point in time he had worked in some capacity with DOT somewhere. And he seems to think that that a lot of what we're doing just is not needed. That there's a good chance that that regulations will be changed down the line, and we'll end up going in and tearing out much of what we're doing in intersections and redoing it. So I know you both read this, and what is your response to the quality and the need of these projects, and do you see anything that may somewhere in the future on this project list need to be redone?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a fair question, but there's many things we've been putting off because of that concern. For instance, all up and down the 61 corridor, it's one of our straightest roads, but it's also one of our highest fatality
Yes.
roads because there's inadequate shoulders to recover. If you do have to stop in a hurry, there's nowhere to go.
Yes.
The intersections don't have turn lanes, and we have had 61 South on the books as a widening project for probably close to 20 years now.
Yes.
And when you look at it, you say, well, it doesn't make sense to improve those intersections because it's going to be widened in 5 or 10
yeah.
years.
I
Well,
agree.
if we knew that 15 years ago, that we still would not have 61 widened today, we should have gone ahead and done those improvements.
Right.
And the state sometimes uses that as a reason not to do the interim improvements. But we have kids crossing the highway trying to get to the high school, Old Villarica Road and Vernoy Aiken. They're in a horrible skew angle. If we realign those roads, we're moving in the right direction. Even if you have to come back and widen that intersection later, it's not all throwaway.
Right.
Yeah, there's a possibility you'll have a little bit of throwaway work, assuming you don't get 10 or 15 years of life out of it, which
Right.
we may very well do if 61 continues on the trend of some of the other highways that we've been waiting on.
So we also have the bypass is part of that plan, and a lot of people, well, why do we need a west bypass? And of course, I know this, and I'm sure you absolutely know the golden rule about historical areas. What is the
Yeah.
golden rule about downtown historical areas?
History trumps critters and endangered species in many cases.
Yes.
You don't mess with history. It's a very cumbersome review process, and there are situations where you do impact it a little bit, but you study the value of the culture and the other history that we have in areas, and you can look at downtown Dallas based on what we know in the past, and you know there's dozens of homes
Yes.
that qualify for protection, and you will not widen 61 in anybody's lifetime.
Okay.
We're
So the
certain of
western
that.
bypass, can you explain to me how y'all have looked at that bypass? Is it definitely going to go west of Dallas, or will it go east of Dallas?
Well, we're looking for the path of least resistance,
Resistance, yes.
and west is an obvious choice. That's the initial preference that the city determined when they studied it in 2006.
Yes.
But we wouldn't stop just there. There are some movements towards the east as you come down south on 61,
Yes.
approaching the city. A lot of people want to get towards Marietta. Half of our citizens commute to Cobb County.
Right. So
Half
that
of the
makes
ones that
sense.
leave the county end up in Cobb County. And so that's sort of the movement that we need to look at. And I don't,
But the cost, because I don't know how many people use Google Earth, and when y'all are doing the Cedar Crest extension, and of course, first thing I did was I went to Google Earth to see what was there, and first thing you look at are homes. So when you start talking about widening roads, you start talking about bypasses. We're getting the county is going to start getting the real estate business at that point. And so I'm assuming that on the west you have less issues with real estate, and on the east you have issues with more real estate to do a bypass.
yeah, I don't want to pit one property owner's property against the other. I mean, everybody's
Right.
property is important to them. But if you look to the east side, you have so many homes. You have no straight line of approach to get around the east side of Dallas. You also have a lot of history with the old battlefield sites
Yes,
in the
New Hope.
in the New Hope area, and you can start looking at. There's a lot of obstacles on the east side. Now, I think we need something to help traffic move around to New Hope,
Yes.
maybe from the High Shoals area over towards Old Cartersville Road.
Oh yes, that would be great.
But that would be a piece of the study before we do anything, is to look at those traffic patterns and make sure what we're doing will address the real need. It will do us no good to build something that takes you out of your path of travel if you won't use it,
Right.
because of the time frame. So we're going to study that now. There is a faint line on the map is all we have right now. That has been the least studied project that we have in the list, and it is also one that is further out because of that. We're going to do a lot of work to determine what's the best route for that road, and before we do anything.
I'm just going to go over. Some things seem obvious to me, but I know that we'll have people that view this that have not viewed all the material that is out there. Does a penny of the money collected in Paulding pay for anything outside of Paulding County? Does it pay for any of the SPLOST projects in Cobb, Atlanta, Savannah? anything? Do we have any money that's collected here being spent beyond the borders of Paulding?
You know, there's no way to track that actual penny.
Okay.
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 It all goes to the 15 county account.
Right.
Now, we know by percentages, we're going to get back a little bit more in percentage than we
Right.
put in.
Right.
So I think that's a fair statement. We know it's not going to be in the Atlanta Regional Commission. No dollars will be spent over there. We know it won't be spent outside the 15 county area, and we know we're getting a little bit more than what we put in.
Right. So
Um,
actually, we're going to get more pennies back for our projects
Mhm.
than really anybody in our region.
I wouldn't put it that.
Or
in
we're
those,
very close to being the
I would-
number one. As
I think
far as
everybody
what we
is
get.
fairly close. There are a couple counties that they have a little wider gap between what they put in and what they get back. But their biggest concern was the regional projects that are in the direction of their commuters.
Yes.
So, like Chattooga County, they were more interested in 140 being widened beyond their county border. So they understand they're putting it into the pot, but they're getting the benefit.
No. I do understand
Sure.
that some counties actually put intersections from other counties on their list that they would put their money towards that because the traffic issues in their county, they could trace them all the way over into another county and an intersection that needed improvement there to help their own traffic flow. But we didn't do any
Certainly.
of those things.
If we could draw our own district, we might choose to draw ourselves in with Cobb and Douglas and Bartow.
Okay.
But that's where our pattern is. But
So let's look at how funny this thing gets. If our region passes it, and it's Cobb is Region 3, I believe, and they don't pass it, how funny does this thing get then? I mean, what if we were the only region in the state to pass this? What happens? Because we're all paying the extra tax, and if the response of the rest of the state is we've got to raise fuel taxes, what happens to the people in our region? Is there any contingency for for that to happen, or are we just kind of stuck?
no, I think that will be an interesting effect if you see a minority or percentage of the districts pass it, and then what happens across from the neighbors to the actual district that passes it. There's some that say that the ones that pass it and they're able to build their projects, they will be job centers. They will attract more locates from businesses.
Right. And
What-
we
I
might
don't
have
know.
people crossing the line if we had less fuel tax, if we didn't have fuel tax on us, it would be another economic boom because they would be crossing the county line over here to shop and buy their gas maybe.
Yeah,
But I think it comes out even with the penny. And that's one thing people have talked about is while certain people, certain companies do not have to pay SPLOST. That they are, I don't understand that because it seems like to me, do companies not have to pay, or certain companies not have to pay an extra penny when they buy, say, equipment or that they buy a new vehicle for their fleet? Are they exempt from the SPLOST?
I think the splosh is aimed at the retail market, and there's certain things that the legislature chose not to allow attaching this extra penny to, like manufacturing and I think energy used in
So
manufacturing.
manufacturing would be
Aviation
if you
fuel.
were buying, you're making a product and you're buying goods from this company and this company to bring together to make your product. Is that you won't pay that SPLOST for those products that you need in order to do business? Is that, am I?
Yeah, I'm not
I know that.
not sure if it will play out like that. I think
Okay.
it's more of a categories of business that, for whatever reason, they did not want to provide a disincentive for them to locate in Georgia or to operate in Georgia, like
Okay.
aviation and manufacturing.
Okay.
You really don't
But
that's an argument on
yeah, to me though,
economics there.
is it comes down to me, is that as long as you're working, whether you're the CEO or you're the janitor of the company, is that still in your everyday life, um, you are spending those monies to survive, and you pay this tax, but it also kind of ensures the health of the company, that you're not. It's almost double dipping if you take it from someone's workplace and then take it from their paycheck, wouldn't you? Or their goods that they buy. That kind of be double dipping if you did that.
Yeah,
I mean, just to
I don't know
me,
if I buy that though, because when I look at transportation spending, you put in the whole region puts money into the transportation needs of
right.
Georgia. If you're able to move projects on one region, then I think it's good for everybody. And particularly when you look at the way the whole greater Atlanta region, which we're part of, works.
Yeah.
If Atlanta ARC proper passes it, they're going to do a lot of things that will benefit without paying a penny. But if they don't pass it and we pass it, I sure like the idea of us having some better roads, some safer roads, and again, I
And
mean,
quite frankly, to me, doing it this hard and this fast in 10 years makes so much sense that it's just unbelievable. Every year, the cost of everything goes up, and the further down these go on the timeline, the more. I mean, I would think that by maybe the 20th project, you might be pulled. You know, if it was 20 years later, you could almost double the price of that project, couldn't you?
I mean, that's been the trend. I mean, we know asphalt is twice as expensive as it was in 1990,
Yes.
and that's part of the whole problem why the existing fuel program has not delivered the projects.
Right.
The program was designed out 30 years at a time based on today's estimate, and nobody can project what prices will be.
So we did exempt some companies that are heavily dependent on diesel, which would actually be the type of companies that are doing this work for us, right? Or
and I don't know which companies those are, but again,
Well,
whether you pay it through the manufacturer or you pay it at the cash register, that penny might be tacked on somewhere. If you don't
Right.
pay it anywhere in that line of the consumer purchasing or whatever,
Yeah.
then the product is cheaper and you buy more of it. I mean, it's just
I know, and it's kind of odd because we agree on this actually when it comes right down to it, is that we know that the fuel tax is shrinking. People are going to respond to this by getting cars that get better mileage to get out of paying the extra fuel tax. We've got electric cars that are coming onto the road, the flex cars, and that, and we sell the same amount of vehicles, if not more, using the roads, but they're not putting as much money into the system to maintain the roads. We-
correct. And the idea that we're going to be able to squeeze more out of what we have and magically be able to widen Highway 360 and 278 in the next 10 years. Highway 278 is not even in the 30-year plan.
And that's the state.
That's a
Y'all
level
work
of-
with the state. For
And George, I'm telling about the level of service we're going to see
Go
in
ahead.
2030.
Level service F. Yes.
What do we have now?
Depending on time of day, I believe it's D to E. So it's not good, but it's going to get worse. Nothing,
Yeah.
You know, you can't leave it on the same path it is and expect it to get better. It's just not
So
going to
we're-
happen.
So we're just going to really see it get worse.
Degrade. Yeah,
altogether.
it's going to degrade over time.
And I don't want anybody to take that as anything other than that's the financial facts we're looking at.
Yeah.
We have tried to get 278 in the widening program. It was in our aspiration. It was in our short-term work program, the 5-10 year work program. Then it got pushed to the long-term work program, and then when they got through with re-estimating all the projects in the program, they cut out anything on the outer edges, and they pushed it into aspirations. And that's the
So
trend.
it's widening 278 is on the never plan.
It's
Is that
on-
what you just said?
It's on the
Do y'all have that word?
the fairy tale wish list, I guess.
That's the never ever plan.
And so we're looking at what we can do to try to improve the capacity on that road. And
even though I'm laughing, is that we know that not being part of the metro area where their economic engine is hungry, and they're willing to take our state and federal dollars and place it there. And the further you are from that center, the lower the odds go that you're going to get any significant amount of help from the state or the feds. Are you able to agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's
There's
There's
just
gonna
more
be a
traffic volumes in those roads.
Yeah, their need never quits, and they're already ahead of us as far as priorities on the need list. So we're never really going to
Right.
catch up with getting
As-
that money
right.
here.
As congested as Hiram is, it doesn't compare to many roads in the metro area. So
Right.
if you look on a pure merit benefit
Right.
cost system, what ends up getting the highest scoring points is an interstate. An interstate lane
Yes.
can generate a lot of benefit in fuel
Right.
by changing the speed limit from 35 to 42. But it might change your commute on a daily basis by just a few minutes.
Yeah.
But because there's hundreds of thousands of cars in that lane, you can rack up a lot of points in benefit
Yes.
cost.
So
Well-
can we explain that there are programs that we put these factors in and they spit it back out and basically tell us where we are. I know that you do it. It's gonna you can put the numbers in and it's gonna tell you what your flow is gonna be if you do so and so. So the people that are watching need to understand that y'all don't make these things up. They're really scientifically calculated. So it's not wouldn't that look good if that were wider? Wouldn't that
Right.
help? Y'all can't even do that on that basis. Y'all have to prove those
Excuse me.
theories, do you not, before y'all
Well,
get money for them?
Certainly, George. I mean, explain the level of service or how capacity is
Okay.
calculated.
How that works is basically it's called, the federal government has a manual, it's called the Highway Capacity Manual. And basically, we use that to calculate capacity of roadways, intersections, highways, freeways. And they're actually now, you used to have to do it by hand, which I've done it a few times. It's
Yeah.
very difficult. But now they have computer programs that makes it easier. You put in the parameters, things like the traffic volumes, the grades, the width of the road, and then it will basically give you output showing what the level of service
Right.
will be, what your travel times will be, factors like that.
And you take that when you go to the state and you're saying we want this portion of our fuel tax, we want this from the feds. You don't say I think that widening this road will work. You have to put those numbers in there, and they're going to look at that before they decide to do anything. Is that yeah?
Exactly. I mean, it's engineering.
So there's really
yeah.
there's nothing that we can do in Paulding County that will put us to the head of the line to get state and federal money to do this. This either we'll
Right.
do this with the SPLOST, we'll do this out of general funds, or we won't do this. Is that where we're at? Or
It
not
is-
all of it. We're just going to say
Yeah, I mean,
parts of it.
it's a very dim prospect as far as what we're going to be able to justify rising to the top. When you have hundreds and thousands of projects in the list, but you only have money to fund X number at the top, you want your projects to show their merit. But if you don't have the data to support it and you don't have the congestion to support it, what gets built may not be anywhere near you.
And they don't take into consideration my personal aggravation with 278's not a factor. For
No,
them.
and they do have an obligation to spend money by congressional district
Exactly.
when it comes to the federal side.
I understand
But our
that.
congressional district goes from here to Tennessee, along the west side of the state.
Okay, yeah.
So they can spend 70%, 100 miles from here.
So we do have a lot of 75 too, as you get, or a
Mm-hmm.
bit of 75 as you go up through Dalton is in our region. Also, I saw that was
That's
on
right.
their list that they wanted some help with those
Right.
interchanges. But they do also qualify for federal funds for where that that goes through their district, right? They do get some federal funds.
We're all basically competing for the same funds
Okay.
by congressional district, and there's a certain amount of guaranteed amount that has to come back. But every federal penny we raise through fuel tax goes to Washington, and then it comes back at less than 90 cents on the dollar. So you take away 10% right there.
Yep.
Before you ever see the first penny.
And that's going back into the state.
It goes
That-
back to the state to place on projects, but then of that, you're only guaranteed that the congressional districts are balanced 70%.
Right.
But that doesn't guarantee anything to each county. What's completely different about the regional approach that we've taken is when you have a list of projects and it's in your county, you know that money's going to be spent on those projects and in your county borders. What we have now is a plan that goes out 30 years that says we are planning to spend sometime during those 30 years money in your congressional district, and we think these Paulding County projects might make it, but the money keeps slipping
Okay,
away.
so this guarantees, we are absolutely guaranteed that these will be done, and there is not a single road project in this county that y'all can guarantee with any of our fuel, any of the fuel money
Correct.
that we spend. That's in a nutshell. You can't guarantee
Yeah,
that
I mean,
any
you
of these
can-
will get done through your fuel tax
You
money.
can
no
feel and
matter how
touch
much
these
is
projects
in.
and know they will get built. Now, the federal program is great at building big projects, but we know that Highway 92 has been on the books for 20 years. We've been promised it for 20 years. And we really don't have any guarantee when it will be funded. We do know that there's a whole lot more activity on Highway 92 in the last 5 years than there was in the previous 15.
Okay. So now people say, okay, it was all unfair. This is what I'm hearing. It was completely unfair that they cut taxes on fuel, on some industries, on diesel, on whatever. What are the odds that we're here? They cut it. That's fuel tax that won't ever be coming in. What are the odds that they will go back next year, the second year, the third year, and because what I'm asking is, are those locked in? Are their abatements on their taxes, are those locked in, or can they go next year and say, "Oh, that was a mistake. We're going to put the taxes on you"? Or do you know if that was locked in? That might be an unfair question.
Yeah,
to you.
I really don't know how that's going to play out, but all the exceptions that were in it only amount to about 2 or 3% of the total funding.
Oh, okay. So we only lost 2 to 3% of revenue, and I know 2 to 3% at these numbers is going to be. We're going to go, oh, that's so much money, but 2 to 3% in the big picture really is not that much to have given back to companies that are.
Yeah, and it's just a question: are we going to fund more transportation, or are we going to take what we can get? And that's every person's choice. We know there's systems that they're not as efficient as far as delivering the dollars back per penny. Because this is a TSPLOST, it functions like our own SPLOST. Less red tape and hoops to jump through. We know we're going to get the return back.
We know there's no
But,
guessing.
Everybody has their favorite thing that they don't like about it. I'm not excited about paying another penny at the grocery store.
And on everything.
But I think it's a quality of life choice here.
And it's and basically it's a bite the bullet for 10 years. Do it now. Make sure we've got it done, and it's off of us in 10 years. I don't know about y'all, but I'm in business for myself. We have had to borrow money at times, and it may take 10 years to pay that back. But to get what we get with our loan and to progress our business, it's well worth sending that check off month after month after month to have what we got for the loan. And I think I'd like people in the area to look at it like that. Is we're going to bite the bullet for 10 years. We're going to make this thing happen, and we're done with it. And the law explicitly says that is they can't change this law. There's no way to change the laws that are written around this regional TSPLOST?
Well, certainly, if it doesn't pass, they could go back and try it again. The law provides a redo vote
Okay.
after 24 months. Realistically, that's probably a 3 to 4 year prospect before you
Right.
could even vote on it again. But the mechanisms and all that are basically the same. I don't see them reopening this can of worms. It was very difficult for them to get to this mechanism. It took a lot of consensus building and a lot of compromising on things like what exactly is taxed. Is it sales tax? Is it fuel tax or not? I didn't have any part of that. This is the choice the legislature gave us. It's the only choice we've been given in a long time if we want to spend more money on transportation.
So, do you live in Paulding?
No, ma'am, I live in Cobb right now.
You live in Paulding.
I live in Paulding. I've been here since '96. I lived in Cobb before that.
As a resident of Paulding, how do you feel about this? You know that everything that you buy from now on out is going to have an extra penny on it at the store, every dollar that you spend. How do you feel about your quality of life 10 years from now if the voters, I mean, you live here, if the voters...
Well, this is my choice, and how I feel about it is a little different than as an engineer. I know as an engineer, we can build this program and we can give the people what they paid for. As a homeowner, I have 3 kids, 2 in high school. As a prospect of them finding a place to work in Paulding County and not having to follow the same trend of the worsening commute to Atlanta, it doesn't look real good as far as the quality of life going up if we do nothing. That's my personal feeling.
And that your kids may
20
make
bucks
the
a month.
choice to move closer to where the jobs
Yeah.
are in Atlanta and Cobb because they don't want, they don't want the commute. It's easier. I have one too that just, and her visits, it's 2 hours on her day off. It's 2 hours to get to mom because she lives on the other side of Atlanta, and it's 2 hours to get back, and she's tired, and it's her day off. I don't see her that much. So it is a huge quality of life issue, and for me, it's worth my pennies. I mean,
Well, the other thing is, I worked in downtown Atlanta up until 2004, and I was able to find a job here close to home. It has been a very good choice, I think, for my family to be able to live close to home. But the prospects for generating opportunities for our children to work here in Paulding County and not have to do that every day, it doesn't look great. And
I know.
when we moved from Cobb out to Paulding County because we love the country, we love the open space, but we also have the conveniences of shopping and things close in. But shopping is not a great job base, and we spend a lot of money. When we drive to Cobb County, we buy sandwiches there, we buy cars there, and that kind of thing. And so we're sending our money to Atlanta, where we work. A lot of us work, and it's not coming back here. So we've got to change the paradigm somehow. This, in my personal feeling, you invest in infrastructure, it has a good chance of doing that, but it's
And
still...
it helps future generations, which is something that
It's an investment
socially
choice.
is not where people's head is lately.
Right.
The future
These are difficult
generations.
times, no question about it. It's a very difficult thing to ask anybody to pay more. So,
But the
I
economic-
respect everyone's
Yeah,
choice in that
and
area.
we really didn't go over the Savannah Harbor, and overall the economy of Georgia. I can just see we will have an economic boost when we put these people back to work on these roads, and we know that. That's a no-brainer. But I can see as that begins to really get up and going, is more companies coming in with the expectation of import, export at the Savannah Harbor. And to me, the federal government is going to say, we're helping you dig that out, and we expect the return of those products from that harbor being able to move across the United States in a reasonable amount of time. And I'm not sure that we can do our part without this TSPLOST to make
Yeah.
those things move.
Yeah, I think this really is a watershed moment, and I've heard Mayor Reed talk about the Hartsfield, the decision to build Hartsfield to bring the post, to satisfy the postal cargo needs. I guess way back in the late 50s, early 60s, and Atlanta became a hub for cargo and for air travel, and Savannah could do the same thing and spread out because a lot of that cargo will come through Atlanta. Heading out to the Midwest, it comes through our Atlanta
Yes.
roads, 75.
And I understand that some of our textile mills just north of us in Dalton and those places also are heavily into some of the exports too. So they'll be looking at being able to get this stuff
Right,
to Savannah.
and again, it's not, if you have the cargo moving through, but you don't have the road capacity, yeah, it's going to be difficult to maintain that growth.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming by and talking
Thank
to
you.
me. And if people have other questions, they can always email you, and they
Right.
can call you. You're not going to go
Certainly,
away. And Scott has been kind enough to actually get the legal language for me, and I will get it up on Paulding.com so that people can see that and read that, put questions up, and I might ring Scott's phone or ring your phone and say, this person had this question about that. And also that everything that contracts with the state has to use E-Verify, do they not, to verify
That's correct.
the citizenship or the work permits for their workers?
Every contract we sign to spend state money has that requirement in it now, and it's
We can hold their feet to the fire.
right.
You know, it's local, and we can say, hey, where did all those people come out of the woodwork? Or have you verified them, which we have every right to do, to ask as citizens that money stays in our country. So with that said,
I just
go ahead.
appreciate you trying to get the facts out there.
Mhm.
Certainly, we all have ideas about how to spend money and how the economy should grow. But what's black and white is what's important here. People make their decisions based on the facts
Mhm.
and not just what they hear. So we're trying to get that information out. You know, present what the referendum will do. That we have a high confidence in being able to deliver it here in Paulding County,
Yes.
as we have with our own SPLOST. And you know, it's just an investment decision, household by household, and that's we respect that. But I just want to make sure people don't
Yep.
make it based on a decision that, we're going to do some kind of bait and switch with these projects, that we're going to build a whole new different list once we build it. No, that's
Yes.
why we're putting it out here.
That's great. I think that the taxpayers, they deserve this transparency, and this is, you've given us so
Let
much
me ask one
information.
real simple question from off camera, and that is, this would actually deliver more money for more projects locally than a local SPLOST would do. Correct or not?
Quite a bit more. Now, our local SPLOST is split. 50% of that goes to transportation, and then we have about 35 or so percent towards public safety and other things, recreation, and other things. So we chose locally to split it that way. Even if the entire penny locally went to transportation, it would not generate as much as this new penny will, because we've got the regional compounding. We have the share coming back to us through the regional list is a little bit in our favor because of the projects that were selected.
So this would almost be a SPLOST on steroids for us.
It will, assuming the economy continues to grow, it will project out quite a bit more than what we're generating now.
Okay, appreciate y'all coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, it's 10 years too, so it's twice as long as a normal SPLOST.